Welcome this afternoon for the 8th annual Vietnam Veterans Day program. And we're going to start off with the Polaris Sea Cadets posting the colors, so if everyone would stand up and then face the colors and keep facing them as they come through and march in. Post colors.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
O Lord our God, I acknowledge that you are with us always, and we give you thanks for that, and we give you thanks for being with us no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing. Thank you for being with the families of those who were in Vietnam and those who have served in the past. And thank you for those families welcoming them back home when many others did not. And while they were over there fighting for freedom and democracy, we give you thanks for being there with them in the battlefield and in the nurse's station or the doctor's station, if that may be the case. So, Lord, we give you thanks for your presence, your love, your care, and your mercy. We ask you to continue to bless us as a nation and as individuals. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Our master of ceremony, of traditions here, is Stan Turner again. And some of you, like me, might remember him from Channel 5 way back when, and he's done other things in radio now and whatever. So without further ado, Stan Turner, we thank you so much for coming and hosting.
Gotcha. Thank you very much, Chaplain Miller. Nice to be back among you again, among friends. Don't have any enemies here, do we? No. We're great, wonderful people here. You know, when I walk in this room and I see the banner on the wall, I get that right away. I kind of get a catch in my throat. I don't think you returning vets saw much of that, did you, when you come back, huh? When you came back some years ago. It's good to see that it's up now and it's in our hearts and in our minds. Welcome home indeed. We have a wonderful program here. The people who know what they're doing when it comes to presenting a program that's worthy of your time and your attention, they have done it again, as you will see as the program unfolds today. It's a great honor to play at least a small part in it. Before we get rolling here, I think we should acknowledge the new commander of this American Legion post, if she's in the room, Robin Kunkel. Robin, are you here? If so, give us a shout out. Not here right now? Maybe on the other side, but let's give her a round of applause anyway. This post, I think, always has a tradition of having lady commanders here. I kind of like that idea a lot. What do you guys think, huh? Not bad. Okay. Well, we want to get to it here. The 2015 Vietnam Veterans Memorial Scholarship. The honoree this year is veteran Robert W. Smith from Forest Lake, Minnesota. The essay topic this year: why were the soldiers returning from the Vietnam War treated so differently from any war before or after? The winning essayist is Kashua Vu, and she is going to read now her winning essay. Kashua Vu, would you please come forward? There she is. A warm welcome for her, please. Recipient of a Kashua $500 scholarship, is that it? Great. Please come on up. Congratulations to you. We look forward to your words. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kashua Vu, and I'm a graduating senior at Forest Lake High School. Firstly, I'd like to thank Diane, the American Legion, the Vietnam Veterans Charity, and all others that were involved in allowing me to be here today. I am Hmong American, and the Vietnam War directly impacted me and my family. In fact, had veterans like yourselves not been fighting, I would not be here today, so thank you. I am truly honored to be here to share my essay with you. Vietnam was the worst war for the United States. Returning soldiers from Vietnam were intensely unwelcomed. David Zack, a Vietnam veteran in Bravo Company, 2nd Battalion, 5th Regiment, and the 1st Cavalry Division, remembers his cold welcome back. He had been taking a nap at the airport until he was suddenly kicked awake by a stranger who had recognized his uniform as a U.S. Vietnam soldier. There are many components that led up to similar treatment of Vietnam veterans, and it was mostly due to the American public being uninformed. With the historical civil rights movement happening at home, it was hard to think of a war thousands of miles from our shores. The American public was uninformed about this war and didn't care about the fight against communism. This and the fact that it was not a direct threat to our liberty resulted in lack of support for the war. Without a volunteer army, the United States government called a national draft based on birthdays. The American public didn't respond well to this. Men fled the country for Canada and Australia, burning their draft tickets with them. The men remaining in the country had to take up arms and fight to avoid the shame their friends had reaped. Men left their homes and family to join a war they knew nothing about. David Zack left Forest Lake in 1971 after being drafted and went to North Carolina for basic training. Afterwards, he was sent to Louisiana for infantry training. Then he went out to Vietnam. The Vietnam War was the first war to be televised on real time. Zack tells how the enemy Viet Cong sometimes used locals as hostages and shields, resulting in innocent people becoming casualties. This was sensationalized by the media, so the soldiers fighting for our country and their lives became baby and woman killers. Not only did Americans at home see this, but they were also told by the U.S. government that we were winning and the war would soon be over. After the Tet Offensive in 1968, the soldiers realized the war could not be won. Zack recalls the small hidden bases slowly and quietly bringing soldiers home. When they did arrive on American shores, they were given a dinner, a uniform, and then sent home. Returning to Forest Lake was coming to a different world for Zack. A year away had changed him, but the town had remained untouched. Vietnam was a world away. The only people that asked about the war were close friends and family, and even then, talk was minimal. No one asked about the war, and the soldiers didn't speak of it. Zack adjusted well immediately, but around the time of the Gulf War, nightmares intruded Zack's sleep. Though it wasn't known widely by the public, post-traumatic stress disorder was something common among Vietnam veterans. This only spurred more isolation on their return home. The reason why Vietnam veterans were treated so differently from other soldiers was that this war lacked American support. Not as many people in the country knew about the war, and those that felt they knew were often misguided by the media. David Zack says, "There is absolutely no one who truly knows what war is all about unless they have experienced it." The United States is now learning the truth of Zack's words, and we have a new respect for what our veterans did for us. Generations later, we are now uncovering what we hid in the 1970s to recognize these hidden American gems. Thank you.
Kakuavu, thank you. Beautifully done. Well done. Very much deserving of the scholarship indeed. Well, next, we mentioned that the honoree today is veteran Robert W. Smith from this community, Forest Lake. And we understand that his son-in-law, Robert Smith, is with us today and might share a word or two. Robert, are you here with us? If so, there you are. Pardon me, Paul. I'm sorry, Paul. Okay. He's got a new name today, Paul Ryder. Paul Ryder, thank you, Paul. Come on up and a word or two from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just wanted to say thank you very much, Diane, who started this whole thing. We really, really are honored. All our friends and family, which are sitting over here, are greatly honored to be picked. As you can see, he's got a bunch of pictures and a bunch of boards over there, kind of just to memorize him and to go through things. Robert Wayne Smith, otherwise known as Bob, and in later years, Papa Smith. He was born on December 2nd, 1948 in Mora, Minnesota. He grew up in Minneapolis. Bob was drafted. He served from 1970 to 1972. He was part of the Charlie Company, 2506, 101st Airborne, known as Screaming Eagles. Bob was a FO, otherwise known as a forward observer. He was a person who called in strikes if needed. We've spoken with certain platoon members of his company, and they said he saved their butts many of times. And he did his job and took it very seriously. At the time of his enlistment, the Charlie Company was patrolling the mountains in the Central Highlands. Sorry about that. This was one of the main areas the enemies used. Back. Okay, sorry. I'm not very good with mics. Where was I here? It was one of the mainland areas the enemies used to get supplies up. That's what they... All right. Is that better? Again, I apologize. I'm not good with microphones. All right. One of the missions that he was on lasted 102 days straight. They later learned they were outnumbered 12-1. The monsoon rains were everything that everybody talks about. Bob talked about being wet for months, never being able to keep anything dry. I know one of the things that happened to him over there is that they need to sit back to back, and that's how they slept in the jungle. So for the rest of his life, he actually slept straight up, and that was just something that never left him from the time he was over there. When they were able to go back to the safe zone and relax, one of their biggest things they loved to do was he liked to play spades, and he did talk about that quite often. And another very interesting part that I had just recently learned that, they got mail back and forth. Well, Bob loved getting his mail, especially from his sister Pam. They were playing a game of chess back and forth, and I think that had to be probably the longest game of chess. But hey, I guess he'd check something off, send it back, and then she would go back. And all I can think of is it had to be a long wait to get to play your next move, Now I guess on to the fun part of Bob's life. He later married a beautiful lady, Mary, which is sitting over there. He had 3 beautiful children, Shanette, Brandon, and Janelle. He has 3 beautiful grandchildren, which Jake, Avi, and Annabelle, which everybody I just named is present today. He enjoyed fishing, basketball, softball, jiu-jitsu, boxing. He loved all sports. He got the honor to coach fast softball. He coached a ladies softball team. He also helped coach with his son in boxing, and then later helped him with his gym that they had opened, and that's actually a mixed martial arts gym, an MMA gym that's in Forest Lake now. His grandchildren, I think that would absolutely be about his favorite thing in the world. He loved to spoil them. Anything from gifts to ice cream for, I'd say ice cream for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it happened. And anything from going to their school plays or just being involved in their activities, sports, and everything. Needless to say, Bob was big into his family and just loved his grandchildren and everybody around them. He loved helping children. I know his one son opened up MMA gym or a mixed martial arts gym, and the last few years he was alive, he was in that gym every single day, taking roll call, talking to all the children, and just enjoyed it. And then he'd also bring them in treats and candy and so on and so forth. He just loved it. I guess in closing here, I think he would be honored to have this, but he would more likely want it to be honoring his family. So if you get a chance, if you didn't get a chance, take a look at the picture boards over there. There's some really neat pictures of him in Vietnam all the way up to current. And on behalf of the friends and family that are here, we're just honored and want to say thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Paul Ryder, thank you. Remembering his father-in-law, the honoree here today. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Vietnam Veterans Day in the state of Minnesota. Some very fine people who don't want to be acknowledged, so I won't do it, pushed it onto the Minnesota law books a few years ago. So this is the day. And I just wonder how many people out there today realize what this day is and what it means. Every passing year, the Vietnam War, at least in the nation's collective memory, recedes farther and farther back. But I have a friend, much like you, a Vietnam vet who was in the U.S. Air Force over there. I think he served in Tan Son Nhut and Da Nang and places like that. And so he breathed the fire like a lot of you did. Came back home and was given to watching war movies, especially movies that dealt with Vietnam. And his wife would look at him and he would say, George, that war, why do you keep watching those films? That war is over. He looked at her and said, not in my head, not in my head. I think a lot of you can relate to that. The shooting stops, the war is declared over, but it's not over for you. You've got the memories, some of you have the physical and the psychological wounds, and you're left to deal with it, and you do that in a way that makes us all proud. And we are here today to salute you and thank you, and how about just a general round of applause for everybody who has served. Well, we got the Finlander here today. There he is right down there. Terry Kivioja. Kivioja, huh? Is that close? Is it getting there? Or are we getting there? Every year I get a little closer to Kivioja. Terry is with the Minnesota Vietnam Veterans Charity. Terry, come up, please. Round of applause here. Our favorite Finlander. You and Asko Venska and all those Finnish names, boy, they really challenge us other Scandinavians, I'll tell you.
We do that, that's for sure. That's for sure. Before I start today, I just want to mention that we have Jim Fisher is here today. He's the president of the Minnesota State Council for Vietnam Veterans America. Jim, where are you at? Here you go. Thank you. I'd just like to say a couple words here prior to the awarding our scholarship today to our winner for this year. And I'd like to congratulate Cashew Vu. Hopefully I got that pretty close to right. That you have been selected to receive the 2015 Vietnam Veterans Memorial Scholarship Award for your excellent essay about the Vietnam War. The scholarship was established after the Vietnam Veterans Day was enacted by the Minnesota legislature and signed into law by Governor Tim Pawlenty on March 27, 2008. March 29th is designated as Vietnam Veterans Day in Minnesota. It was enacted as a way for Minnesotans to show their pride and gratitude, to recall the veterans' accomplishment, and thank Minnesota Vietnam veterans for their unselfish devotion to duty. It was Diane Finneman's devotion to her loss of her decorated Vietnam veteran brother that compelled her to ensure that all Vietnam veterans are recognized for their sacrifices during that war. Minnesota Vietnam Veterans Charity is honored to present you with a scholarship check for $500 to start your college education. Thank you, Cashew Vu. Please come forward. Thank you. You did a great job. Good luck at school.
A 12-month tour behind him, and all his hopes ahead. A pride that beat with his young heart for all the things he did. As he stepped off the airplane, he stooped and kissed the ground, and he traded a war on foreign soil for one in his hometown. There was no love for the soldier limping back home from the fight. That old flag was stitched with more than blue and white, but we turned our eyes when the eagle cried. I saw them spit upon him, and I heard them call him names, and something changed within his eyes. He didn't look the same. He hid his wounds from battle, so others didn't know. But he couldn't hide the damage of their scars upon his soul. There was no love for the soldier limping back home from the fight. That old flag was stitched with more than blue and white, but we turned our eyes when the eagle cried. A generation later, we stand at war again. But I thank the Lord we've chosen now to honor faithful men. We can't forget to look back and give our gratitude all the men who fought before and lived and died without their due. Love has come back for the soldier to carry him home from the fight. 'Cause that old flag, it flies with more than blue and white. So may tears fill our eyes when the eagle cries. Love has come back for the soldier to carry him home from the fight. God forgive us for the day we lost our sight and we turned our eyes when the eagle cried.
Leaves you kind of stunned in a way, doesn't it? My goodness. Diane Finneman is here. Diane, it's time for you to get up here and introduce a very special friend and a very special subject. And so, ladies and gentlemen, a lady, oh, she's priceless. She's wonderful. She's Diane Finneman.
So many of you know that back in 2007, I went before the City Council here in Forest Lake and asked for a proclamation designating March 29th as Vietnam Veterans Day. So I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to anyway because they're important people. Two of the people that were on the council at that time, our mayor at the time is our mayor again, Steve Stegner. He's here. Steve, where are you? And Susan Young was a council member, and Susan is in the back there. She's been to every single solitary one of our programs. So after the citywide proclamation, we were the first and only city in the state of Minnesota to have such a proclamation. I moved on to, my next goal was the state. Well, I had no idea what I was doing, but I had a secret weapon. I had a really good friend from junior high school who just happened to be a House representative at the time. His name is Larry Howell. And I called Larry and I told him what I wanted to do. And his response to me was, Diane, why do you only want to do a proclamation? Let's do a law. That's permanent. You don't have to do it every year. And I said, Larry, I didn't know I could. So with that, armed with my brother's story, Chris Sorrow, who's here as well, and his book, The Twins Platoon, Larry took us through the legislation process and was able to get our law passed, designating Vietnam Veterans Day as March 29th in time. Governor Plenty signed it in time for the very first program that we had here in 2008 on March 29th. So needless to say that everybody wants to give me all this credit, but if it wasn't for this man sitting here, Larry Howes, we would not be here today, and there would be no law in the state of Minnesota recognizing our Vietnam veterans. So it is my honor to introduce to you, finally, Larry Howes.
Thank you, Diane. The first thing I would say is I wish I didn't have to pass a law to honor the veterans of a war that most people didn't want. But I was surprised when she asked, and it's true. I said we should do a bill and be done with it as more strength. I was telling her husband earlier today that a resolution on the House floor, you don't have to vote for it if you don't want to. It doesn't mean anything. It just gives the politicians some points. And a lot of us that served don't like to do it just for points. We'd like to do it because we think it's either the right thing to do or it should be done. But with that, I want to make it very clear that I've never served. I was classified as a 4A, and I'm not quite sure what that means, but I was a juvenile delinquent when I was 17 years old. I knew a county attorney who probably orchestrated part of what I did while I was 17 and 18, but that's long ago, and I actually got myself elected to the legislature without a high school education and serving time when I was 18 or 17, I guess. So there's a whole story there. Anyway, Diane brought it to me. We started the process. The first thing I did was get the Speaker of the House. The Democrats controlled the House and the Senate at that time, and our governor was Pawlenty. The Speaker signed on to the bill, and I asked her if we could please get this done a day or two before March 29th so we could have it ready. The first phone call I got was from Governor Pawlenty's staff saying, Larry, you don't really have to do that. We're working on a resolution. And I said, well, I told the staff person, you can do all the resolutions you want, but I'd like you to back off because we're going to do a law. And you can have it ready. And if we don't succeed with the law, then you can do the resolution. And thankfully, the governor actually called me back himself and said, Larry, I'll back off, and good luck to you, and we'll see you later what we cited. So that was good. Well, the other thing I didn't tell Diane when we first started with the committee process is I was getting pushback, believe it or not. I thought at first glance this bill's a slam dunk. Nobody's going to oppose this. Why would they? They couldn't. It's not going to happen. This isn't the 60s. But I got pushback. A gentleman who was a very high-ranking officer in the American Legion testified, not for the American Legion, testified for himself against the bill. Didn't want to have another day. One of the members of the committee didn't want to have another day. And I thought, boy, this might be tough. But we had 3 people in the committee that spoke very well of the bill. And it went well. Diane told a great story. And it passed the committee 10-0 on a voice vote. So I thought, we're good. So then we get to the House floor. Very first person to get up and speak on the bill spoke against it. He said, I don't know why we have to have another bill to honor another war. I was in World War II. I suffered. People suffered in the Korean War. And he went on and on. He kept saying, why do we need another bill to honor a war? And I think he really opened the door for me to make him sit down, because I stood up and I said, I'm not honoring a war. I'm honoring the soldiers that served. And if you don't want to honor that day, that's your decision. He didn't get up again, so it went well. And it did pass. The story that Diane wanted me to tell is Representative Dennis Osmond, who at the time was a retired fireman from Minneapolis. And he got up, and I did not expect this. I did not talk to him beforehand, but his story is remarkable. He got up and supported the bill and said a fireman friend of mine who I work with was injured twice in Vietnam. The third time he was injured, he woke up on a PT boat in a body bag. He fought his way out of the body bag. They discovered, obviously, he was alive. After he was healed and rehabilitated a little bit, he went home and he thought, this is great, I'm going to get home and people will be glad to see me and everything will be great. After he stepped off the plane, no more than 10 or 20 feet from the ramp, somebody spit on him. Another person called him names. And he couldn't believe it. So that was a very moving story. And then I thought Dennis was done, but he had another story, another fireman who had 2 boys, somewhere about 16 or 17 years old. and had just learned that his father won the Silver Star in Vietnam, but was too embarrassed to ever tell anyone that he had won the Silver Star or that he had served in Vietnam. Now, people say, you know, the veterans of World War II weren't necessarily welcome when they came back. Korean War veterans weren't welcomed, and they were spit on also. And that's probably true, and we're not trying to take anything away from the other wars. It's the 60s was a very hectic time in this country. It was the age of Aquarius, the age of marijuana, the hippie movements, the rock and roll. It was not a good time to be involved in anything that meant something dear. And when my father and my oldest son and my two of my sons served, and my son-in-law Chris was in the National Guard, and I remember going out to Egan when they returned home. 3 buses came to Egan. The governor showed up. There were 600 people in the gymnasium cheering these guys when they came back. So it was different. It was just different. And I'm always amazed at that, how different that was then. But it was an honor for me to do this for Diane and for Skip. It really was. So with that, I would like to thank you that served in whatever war you served in or conflict. Thank you very much. We honor you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, former Representative Larry Howes. Representative, are you a descendant of Betsy Ross? Is that true? Come on up. Don't be angry. I was told to ask you that.
My grandmother kept great notes. They weren't always documented, but she told me that my 5th aunt in line, her name was Betsy Ross. She lived in Philadelphia, and she was a seamstress. And she said, Larry, we can't prove she sewed the flag, but it's awful darn close. And I said this on the House floor when Representative Rukavina from the Iron Range passed a law that you could only sell a flag in Minnesota that was made in the USA, which makes sense. And he wasn't getting traction, so I stood up and said that my great aunt, you know, probably made the first flag, and I agree with you. And the bill passed, and then I was on CNN News that night because I had said that. But I even have, my daughters are proud to say they're daughters of the American Revolution. My family's been here before the Revolution. And I even have a dog tag at home dating to the Civil War. It's silver, it's oblong, there are 3 stars on top, and it's GEN.US Grant. And on the back of it, it's scratched in 1865. I got it from a great uncle that had passed away in Wisconsin, but I've never been able to prove it was actually Grant's, but he was a musician in the Civil War, and he served under Grant, so that's all I know. So it's a history.
Thank you. Thank you for that, and thank you for your good work on the floor of the State House, Larry Howes. I don't believe you were a juvenile delinquent, sir. I'm getting feedback here, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest among us today. It's a pleasure to call up a gentleman who has served, like you, in the state legislature, took a run for governor, came pretty close, and is Minnesota's newest congressman, member of Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, 6th District Congressman, yes, Tom Emmer. Tom, thank you. Congressman, good to see you. Happy day.
Thank you. Okay. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, I learned a lot of what I do today from Larry Howes, so if you think I do a good job, just let me know. If you think I do a bad job, please let Larry know, all right? It's funny, this is truly an honor to be here today, and I want to thank Diane for the invitation. Thank you very much. I've been at this job for 81 days. Maybe today's 82, but it's short of 90 still. And I will tell you, the best part of this job is what we're doing today. It's to celebrate and honor true heroes in a world today where we watch way too many people with numbers on their jerseys carrying footballs, and we celebrate wins and losses. The true heroes in this country are seated in this room and are serving abroad and wearing the different uniforms of our servicemen and women. Now, here's what I'm doing, so you know, and I'm going to keep it short. But they tell me in the office, you know, we got a great staff, but they're all pretty young. In fact, most of them, I've got one that served in Afghanistan, Jason Fry, who some of you may know. Jason probably is the one that understands the most what it means to wear the uniform, obviously. But they don't understand Vietnam. They don't understand where I was going today. And I know my wife, Jackie, will be extremely jealous because this is the kind of thing that she loves to participate in. So what did they do? I leave the house today and somebody sends me an email and says, by the way, here's some talking points, right? Here's some talking points for this group. And Zach, my staff, and by the way, these are great young people. They're brilliant. But here's what they don't understand. If you're standing where I am, and I think Larry just did the same thing, what little can we do to thank you and your families? What little can we do to make it better than it was when you returned home? I don't know what we could do, but it's showing up. And these guys give me talking points that I get to tell you how great I am. That's not what I'm here for. Yeah, you know, we're trying to do our part. I introduced this act last week that would help more veterans have more access to quality health care. I think there are little things we can do, but I'm not here today to celebrate the guy who's standing in front of you and what I'm doing. I am very humbled to be standing in front of true heroes. And the only message that I want to give today is that we are forever grateful for your service and your sacrifice. And it's not just those of you that are veterans who wore the uniform, it is your families. Your families who actually had to stand with you and stand behind you and had to help you when you return home. And if you could just do me a favor, even though I know, because Jackie's grandfather was a World War II vet, and the last thing he wanted was attention, right? The last thing he wanted was for us to tell him how great a human being he was. He didn't want you to notice him at all. But I would like, if you were a veteran of the Vietnam War, and I understand we have veterans from all different types of service, but it's your day. Could you please just raise your hand? And if your families could do the same, keep your hands up. And if the families would raise their hand, and let's give them all a hand. Thank you very much. From my office, from my family to yours, again, we are eternally grateful for your sacrifice and for what you have done for this country. And if there is anything we can do for you, please don't hesitate to ask. We will do our best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman Tom Emmer. Wonderful remarks. And boy, do we have a keynote speaker for you today. He's one of you. You saw his hand go up when the congressman asked for a show of hands of Vietnam vets. Yes, Pete Orput is among you. I live in Washington County, and I'm really glad he does the job he does today. He's my county attorney, and a guy with a great resume, a great background. I was absolutely overwhelmed reading his history. He's had a lot, like we all have, a lot of professional challenges, a lot of personal challenges. He is here today not only to salute you as a fellow veteran of the Vietnam War, but to accentuate the positive. We talked about this before. I know that. There are lots of negative things we can talk about today. We're going to get a positive spin, but a truthful spin, too. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Washington County Attorney and our keynote speaker today, Pete Orput.
Thanks for those very kind and generous remarks. I've got to echo a lot of what Congressman Emmer said, and I thank you for coming, Tom. You've been a really good friend to all of us here, and I'm grateful for the support you're doing. I don't like these things. I've got a number of other friends I'd like to give a shout out. I know I have some close friends. Even my Legion friends from Post 48 are here wearing their covers. Wish I wore mine. I was so scared to do this that when Diane asked me if it wasn't the profound admiration I have for that courageous woman, I'd have said no. I said, I don't want to do it. And I'm still really scared. I was so scared I wouldn't let my wife come with me because I thought, what if I make a fool of myself? But I don't know, where is Diane? She's back there somewhere. I remember when she brought to my attention that she was working on a bill to make Vietnam Veterans Day. And, you know, you guys, and I know because I hang around with you, you shrug and go, yeah, well, too little, too late, that kind of thing. But no, it ain't. That ain't too little and it ain't too late. We'll take it 40 years later, we will. Let me just, maybe to calm me down, I can just go through a couple of stats for you. My buddy Russ Allen, who served in Vietnam, came with me today, and I'm grateful, and lent me his reading glasses, since I forgot mine. The government has the war officially starting on August 5th, 1964, and it ends on May 7th, 1975. They count 2,709,918 men served, and 6,000 plus women nurses served as well. 58,202 casualties, 303,704 wounded Vietnam veterans. Now, what happened here? What is it? I've heard all kinds of stories. We've all got a story. Every single one of you guys in the room has that story about coming back. And we could dwell on it, but for what purpose? Because I thought, you know, I wrote a speech and I thought, what for? You know, why? Do we want to rehash that? No. Here's what I'm so terribly proud of, and this is why I'm so grateful that Diane gave me this opportunity. I get a chance to tell my fellow Vietnam vets, my brothers, that I am so grateful to you personally and professionally for what you've done. Well, what have we done? You made damn sure it wasn't going to happen again. Damn sure. Now let me go over that a little bit. Let's say you're an 18-year-old kid and you just get out of high school and the economy looks tough and you barely made it through school and you're not sure you're ready for college, or you can't afford college, you don't have any money in the bank. So you decide to go into service. And you go in, and next thing you know, you're being sent overseas to a country, and you're not real sure why you're going. What's the end game? Why are we going in? Why are we going in there? And once we're in, what are we supposed to be doing? Now, I know you guys are going, Pete's talking about Vietnam, right? No, Pete's not talking about Vietnam. Pete's talking about 30 years after Vietnam. And all of a sudden, we're sending thousands and thousands of troops to Iraq. And, you know, people kept telling me, there's no parallels, and all I could see is parallel lines. I go, let's keep going. They're not sure why. They're not sure how long they're going to go. I think the only thing that worked better this time around than last time, remember last time, we'd go in and out, you'd get relad orders, and you'd come in, so every week you had new guys joining your unit and old guys leaving, no matter what you were in the middle of. And at least this time, the leadership in the military said, now you're all going together and you're all leaving together. But what they didn't know was they put those printers who make short time calendars, they put them all out of business. Because when these guys, remember the old short time calendar? We all had one. They're out of business because these guys go to Iraq and they're told, well, it might be 12 months, might be 8, might be longer. You might get extended, and then they're getting extended and extended. Now it's not 14 months. A lot of you were 12, Marines were 13, 16, 18, 24 months. They've now been there 2 years. They come back to the world, they hang out for 6 months, and back again they go. And we're watching this, all of us, and we're going, wow, this is not going to happen to them. What happened to you? It's not going to. We're not going to let it. And because of the Vietnam vets, and this is who did this, through the Legion. Just about everybody in my Legion is a Vietnam era vet. The old timers are gone. My old man's barely alive. The World War II guys, it's mostly made up of Vietnam vets. Through the Legion, through the VFW, through the Vietnam Veterans of America, disabled vets. These groups and you individuals stood up and went, not this time. And you're the kind of guys that would sit out at the airport, and when you see some kid wearing his uniform humping a sea bag, you took the time to walk up and say, thanks for your service. It was you guys. I saw it. I'd watch it at the airport. It was the Vietnam vets. Well, you know, who's going to fill my cup? You're going to fill his cup. That's what you're going to do. Your cup ain't going to get any more full than it is. But that doesn't keep us from filling the next guy's cup. We're not going to repeat it. Every one of you I know had in your mind. I know what it was like for me. I'm hurt, jealous, I'm angry, but that isn't going to mean I'm going to do it to this kid and shun him. And when the kid goes in the airport bar to have a beer when he's wearing 2 rows of ribbons, the bartender asks him for ID and he's not 21, so he doesn't get a beer. Well, he can go over there and serve a couple of tours or not. He didn't get a beer. Well, it's you who said, not this time. I can't do anything about what they did to us, but I'm going to do something about the next group. Well, one that rarely got talked about, now I'm going to talk about it, is those estimated 15% of the Vietnam vets who got in real trouble, real emotional trouble. And I'm going to talk about that because it's not everyone. Like I say, a great study had been done in 1988 and 89 about what happened to these guys. Now, this is several years after the war is over, right? 15 years. And then they go around and find some of you guys and survey you and find that 15% clearly diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. Well, remember, the VA didn't even acknowledge that until 1982. So if you thought you were going to get treated for it when you got out, treated for what? It didn't exist. Well, they've come around now. They've come a great deal around. I used to be angry at the VA. I love the VA now, and I'll get to that in a second. At any rate, but of the 15%, really, they recognized that number was low. It was more like closer to 30% had episodes of PTSD, and now the psychologists are saying perhaps a more accurate term would be moral injury. Well, moral injury? Yeah, see, we took these young men, and when they were born until they went, we taught them, thou shalt not kill. And we go from that to, well, wait a minute now. You shall kill, and you should be damn good at it. And you were damn good at it. Very good. Statistically, outstanding. But you come back, and now you're stuck with that conflict. I know it's not right to kill, but I did it anyway. Or a close cousin of that in moral injury. How come I lived and that guy didn't? How come a dud 82 millimeter mortar round landed next to me, but he didn't get a dud? How come when I hit that booby trap, it didn't go off, but it did with my buddy? Those kinds of things that don't go away. We push them down. We sometimes drink them away. We take our anger out somewhere. But we all know what that felt like, and we all know. But we push it down. We put one foot ahead of the other and get her done, and that's what you've done. That's why you guys are my heroes, not Superman, none of that nonsense. It's you guys. You're the guys I could look up to. You're the guys that when I went, is every night this dark? No, not every night, dude. Not every night. And you're the guys that are there to help guys like me. And you're the guys that are there to help these new guys. And there's a lot of them. Now, remember in 2003, we jumped into Iraq, shortly thereafter Afghanistan. A lot of these guys went to both places. Every one of these vets I've met did at least one tour, and that was an extended one. And they come back. Now, I'm a prosecutor, and I've been one for about 28 years. And I'm over in Hennepin County, and I'm running a robbery task force, but I'm watching who comes in the door. And I'm seeing young men coming through. What's this guy in for? He looks pretty straight. He looks real strack. Short hair, he's groomed. He looks good. I don't see those kinds of criminals. Oh, that's an Iraq war vet who got in a Donnybrook in a bar and beat somebody up. Or that's a guy that got in a domestic situation with his wife because he wouldn't quit drinking and she was yelling at him. Or that's the guy that got into another DWI. And I'm seeing these guys coming through the system. And I'm going, well, what the hell? They didn't go in a criminal. In fact, you know that today you couldn't even get in the service with a DWI conviction. So they didn't go in a criminal. And why are they now a criminal? Because that's about what we're about to do, is brand them a criminal once we bring them into criminal court. And it's like, well, who are these people? And I started to take an interest in some of these guys. What are you doing in here? And I read the reports. And there's a common denominator about every single one. Every one of these guys was a combat veteran who served in a country where he wasn't clear about what he was supposed to be doing. He wasn't even clear about who the enemy was. And he'd think, well, every Haji's a Haji, and I can't tell the good guys from the bad guys. And I don't know when I'm getting out, and I don't know what we're supposed to even be doing here. And they come home. And when they came home, it was even more fun than when we came home, because now they're in the midst of one of the worst recessions since the Great Depression. And in addition to having the struggles of multiple tours and uncertainty and high rates of death of your buddies, you get to be unemployed. How's that for a kicker? Remember, just a few years ago, it was a 25% unemployment rate for veterans. So what do? Not everyone, but some of them would say, well, why don't I pick up a bottle and make it go away? Why don't I get a bag of weed? Maybe that'll do it. And they start doing that, and then what happens? They get in trouble. They get in fights. The wife's going, you got to get to work. You got to get off your duff. You got to quit drinking. You got to quit sitting around playing violent video games. And they don't know what to do with that anger. They don't know what to do with that moral injury until the cops arrest them. And then what am I going to do? And I'm looking at this going, I'm not sure I'm anxious to participate in this, even though I'm very anxious to prosecute people who hurt other people. But in this case, I went, I don't know. Well, as I'm struggling with this, I got a call essentially out of nowhere. I had a friend in Buffalo, New York. She was a prosecutor, and I'd met her at the National DA's College where I was doing some teaching. She says, Pete, you're not going to believe what's going on here. What? We set up this court. I just found out about it. It's in Erie County, Buffalo, New York. It's called a Veterans Court. A Veterans Court? What's that? It's a court where we can get these guys, and we're getting a lot of them, coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. We bring them into a court where everyone in the courtroom is himself or herself a vet. Oh yeah, why is that important? Because every one of these guys comes into court and says, I'll take my lumps, I did it, throw me in jail, and that's as far as you're going to go with them. And when you try to probe them deeper, the answer is, you don't understand my reality. If you're going to throw me in jail, throw me. And they're tough guys. We build them tough. But they aren't going to tell you what's going on. But what if you had a courtroom where everybody in there goes, we don't understand? I disagree, sir. Look around. See that judge? 68 to 70, Marine Corps. See that probation officer? 71. See that guy there? See that gal? Everybody in this room is served. Everybody does get a little bit of your reality. Now, what are we going to do? There's jail, and there's the courageous, tough road. Now, we know you got the courage. You already demonstrated that. We got your DD-214 right here. How about it? How about going and doing the right thing? Well, this came out, and I went, why, this is amazing. I called the judge out there. He goes, you know what? I've been doing court for years, and what I'm normally used to is what we call recidivists. It's a big word to say knuckleheads come in, do their time, get out, and reoffend, and keep reoffending and reoffending. And he said, right now we've put over 300 people through it. By now it's 2008. We've not had one recidivist, not one. In fact, the stories of redemption these guys have gotten from the pain and the hurt is phenomenal. Well, now, wait a minute. Somebody came up with something that just might be the right thing to do to the right person at the right time. Well, count me in. So I get together with some volunteer guys, all of whom were veterans, over in Hennepin County, and we go, you think we can build a battleship? Because that's what it's going to take to get this done. But we got started, and we worked for 2 years and spent a lot of time down at the Capitol with the District Judges Council and everyone else to try to get a program going. Well, just as soon as it got going, I had this dumb idea about going, I want one where I live, and I live in Washington County, and I want a veterans court, and I want one more than I want anything else. Well, then run for the job. But I'm not a politician. Well, if you get the job, you can do it. Okay, all right, I will. And it was the first thing I wanted to do when you folks elect me. I said, I'm going to do a veterans court. And you know why? Because your neighbors and my neighbors were overseas, and they're coming back. And how do I want them back in my community? Well, I want them back as whole as we can possibly make them. And it starts just a little bit with thanks for your service when you see them at the airport, but that ain't enough. And so I thought this would be an easy sell, but it was a hard sell. First of all, people don't like anything innovative. They like to do what we've been doing for a million years. It works. And if you want something out of the box, it won't. And then I got a lot of criticism, not from you guys. You're the only reason why we got it, but from people in government and that saying, Orpit, you want to create a two-tier justice system, one for schmucks and one for veterans. That's not fair. I go, that's funny. You say it's not fair because it's two-tiered. You're right, it's not fair. And I pull out the numbers about how many Vietnam veterans ended up going to jail or prison with multiple felonies, cycle in and out, got zero help. And it's surprising. I won't wonk you out with the numbers, but when they say 15% of you and 11% of that 15 spent a great deal of time in prison on felonies, we dropped the ball. Yeah, we left some guys there, but we left them here too. And it's like, this time, we're not leaving anybody. And that's not a two-tier justice system. That's doing the right thing to the right person. And in fact, it's so much not a get-out-of-jail-free card that the only way we get these guys in is to appeal to that courage that they already demonstrated once when they went. And say, do you want the easy road? Do you want to sit in jail and play Monopoly till your time's up? Or do you want to go slay the dragon? You know that dragon, that one that haunts you at night, haunts you while you're driving down the road, haunts you when you walk into Burger World, that dragon. Now, the way to do it, of course, is we got to stop the medication, stop the game plan. You can't drink your way out of it. If you could, I'd have a distillery in my backyard, and so would you. And once we can get a cork in the bottle, now the fun begins. And you get into the programs that the VA finally has created. And they have. In fact, they've done so well, they're actually gone the other way. I know a lot of you guys say, I wouldn't go out to the VA. I heard that too. I don't now because there's a young guy that needs the service way more than I do. But they've really come around. Here's how it works. I get a guy that comes in, and like I say, these are classic, almost classic. Drinking a lot, fighting a lot, acting out a lot, and real stuck with deep pain, what the shrinks are now calling the moral injury. Well, I can throw him in jail and then let him out, and then he'll go do it again, and I'll do it again. We can keep that dance up forever. Or we can say it's time to get off the damn merry-go-round. Let's get off. And we send them out to the VA and they get screened. And I get a pretty honest screening. This is what this guy's looking for. It's going to take a lot of work, right? We'll tell the guy, you go down that path, you show me you still have the balls you showed me you had when you went overseas, and you do this one. This will be a bigger battle in Ramadi, bigger battle in Fallujah. This is your battle. But you ain't alone, and you will get through it. And when you do, you got to come back and help me because I got a line of guys, and I need them to pair up with mentors, with guys who've been through it. Now, that overcame a lot of the resistance. The way I got it done, though, is instead of saying, Captain, may I, to a bunch of appellate judges and others saying, may I please have this, I went right to you and said, do the people of the county want it? And overwhelmingly, you said, we want a veterans court in our county, so we've got one. And when we open the doors, who do we get? First 4 guys. Well, Vietnam vets. Because if nothing changes, nothing changes. So I don't care if it's 50 years later, it's time to get off the merry-go-round and get the help. And at least you'll have some peace in your life if you do it. Tough programming, it's real tough. But you know what? It works. And that is the obligation that we have and that you continue to demonstrate. I've never heard one of you guys say, when do I get my damn parade? That one's passed. That parade, you didn't get one. But the guys from Gulf War I got one. I went down to St. Paul and I tipped my hat, not without a little resentment, but I tipped my hat. And now it's way more than a parade. Now, when I ask for mentors, guys like you jump up and go, I want to work with this kid. And they don't really need a mentor. They need somebody that they can call in the middle of the night, like the kid who called me a week ago, and he goes, I got a 45 caliber pistol and I've got it up to my head. He's an Iraq war vet, pretty screwed up guy, wonderful guy, wonderful. I said, that won't do it, man. That'll solve your problems, but that's a gutless punk way to do it. I'll be right over and find me a Perkins somewhere. We'll get some coffee. Well, we got that guy into our vets program up in Anoka, and he's doing well. What's that worth? I get my satisfaction not from why didn't somebody do something for you and me. I go, we're getting it right with the next generation, and we're not gonna let it happen again. You won't. And that's your legacy. And people say to me, well, you know, Pete, aren't you saying, you know, it says in the Bible, I'm not my brother's keeper. Yeah, that's true. I'm not my brother's keeper. But we're our brother's brother. That's what we are. And that's the role we're taking. Now, one final comment. Why did it happen that we got treated poorly? You know what word I wanted to use. And these guys didn't. I've been thinking about it for years. And what I think it was, people elect our leaders to do policy. Our leaders, our elected leaders, come up with our policy for our government. And our job, everyone in here, even if you were but certainly for us enlisted men, our job was to dutifully and selflessly carry out the policies. And nobody cared whether we agreed with them, and we didn't care whether we agreed with them. We just did what we were ordered to do. But the public put it on us. Their anger at the policy leaders, they brought down to us. Well, that's clearly unfair, and I think it dawned on them how unfair it is. And how it dawned on them is because you guys stood up, our Legion, our VFW, our disabled vets, us individuals, and said, no, that's wrong. If you're mad at the policy, blame the policy leaders. Don't take it out on the grunts. It's unfair. So like I said, I'm not my brother's keeper, but we are our brother's brother. And I'm so grateful and so honored to be among you guys because you're my heroes. Thank you.
Yeah, there are powerful messages, and then there are really powerful messages. You just heard one in the latter category. We promised you a positive message, and really through all that, very positive indeed. Pete, thank you so much for that. Going to have you Vietnam vets back on your feet again. We want to salute you this time by standing up, if you would, please, those of you who are able. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of which, we have a fellow we want to single out here, Herb Reckinger. Herb, where are you? Are you, yeah, there, stand up. Herbie deserves a special round of applause, too. Herb, let's stay up. Those of you who have heard the Faces Never Forgotten program, this is a nationwide effort to match up names of Vietnam casualties. When we say casualties, I'm talking about the KIAs, those who lost their lives, 1,100 at least from this state. The nationwide effort is to match up pictures to the names and backstories, so we get to know, we can remember properly who these fine men, most of them men, some women, were. This is noble work, and Herb in the state of Minnesota here has been in the vanguard of the volunteer effort to match up the pictures and the backstories to the names. And Herb, I understand of the 1,100 or so, you're down to what, just 8 left to find photos in the other? Isn't that amazing? All volunteer works. This man and his... They get in their own cars, they drive anywhere in the state to try to find a relative who might have a photograph and all the rest, and we can never thank you enough for that. Thank you, Herb. And And by the way, Washington County Veteran Services, Ryan Caraful, are you here? We'd like to salute you too. Ryan, there you are. Thank you for your good work, my friends. I wish we could have each and every one of you stand up and give you an individual shout out, but you know we care about each and every one of you. And thank you all for coming today. Diane Finneman, I think we've covered the canvas, haven't we? Okay, we've got it all done here. Thank you. We've been treated to an extraordinary program today. Diane, thank you to you and the others who have put this magnificent event together for us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we will retire the colors, bring in the Sea Cadets once again.
I want to remind you to take a look at the tables. There's a lot of good displays up there and around in the back. And there's a lot of people here that we didn't recognize, so go ahead and recognize them one by one. And in the very back center, I have a couple of pavers there, the Forest Lake Area Veterans Memorial. There's twice a year we go ahead and have an order cutoff date, and that's coming up next week if you want to honor a veteran deceased or still alive. So let's go ahead and stand up, and we'll retire the colors. Retire colors. For those of us who have served under that flag, that means a lot to have that honors given to our United States flag. Thank you, Polaris Sea Cadets. And thank you all for coming. It's very, very great to see this group.